it became apparent rather quickly that it was a bigger deal than maybe I thought. Because I was mostly just annoyed that I had to deal with it at all.
Let's go back to the beginning, the thing that sort of made you a national figure, although you were a congressman already. Let's talk about Saturday Night Live. I'm sure you've never talked about that before, right? You maybe
Yeah.
once, maybe twice. Can you just talk a little bit about that night? You see the Pete Davidson sketch, and then just sort of all the fallout, and then what you did ultimately. Was it literally, I think, the next week when you went on the show? And just talk about how that then sort of set you up to be a more national figure instead of just a congressman from Texas.
Yeah. Well, obviously I wasn't really watching it that night, of course. Nobody is, right? I think most people digest Saturday Night Live from like the next day's YouTube videos or something. If it's a good skit. And that was no different on this one. Of course, a story started getting written about it. I had not seen it. I had some funny text messages from my buddies that were just giving me a hard time for it. We have a very dark sense of humor in the teams. And it became apparent rather quickly that it was a bigger deal than maybe I thought. Because I was mostly just annoyed that I had to deal with it at all. There was a lot going on that day. It was the Sunday before the election. We were doing pretty well, but I had a lot of events I had to get to, and it felt more like an annoyance. I was not used to having to respond publicly to things, probably the way I'm more used to that now.
Yeah. And, you want to give people the one sentence recap of what the skit was or what the line was there?
Sure. So yeah, Pete Davidson was basically going down a list of quote unquote gross people, all politicians, all except for one were Republican. And he basically just makes fun of everybody. But with me, he, at first he's like, this guy, he looks kind of like a hitman in a porno. And that was pretty funny, to be honest. But then he goes, sorry, like, I know he lost his eye in war or whatever. Right. And it was that single line that seemed so dismissive of a war injury that just it drove people nuts, and understandably so. And now, the way I analyzed this, and the way I analyze it in my book, is it was pretty obvious that he was trying to take a dig at conservatives, right? It's Pete Davidson, it's Saturday Night Live. They dig at Democrats plenty too, but on this particular skit, it was a very clear swipe at conservatives, because it's obvious. Just watch it. But it was not as obvious that he was trying to insult wounded veterans. And so there was the thought process the next day was, okay, how much grace can we give here while still acknowledging that many veterans are hurt by this? Like, genuinely they're pissed off, and maybe they have good reason to be, but also I don't want to unleash this outrage mob because, one, I don't feel it.
Yeah.
I genuinely don't feel like this sense of being offended, and it's just not who I am. And so I don't want to express something that I'm not really feeling either, which seems to be the norm. And the surprising thing about all this was that it was so surprising to people that I wouldn't unleash the outrage mob. And I said something, my main quote from that was, a quote that I actually stole from a Harvard professor, which was, try hard not to offend people, try even harder not to be offended. The joke wasn't very funny, but like, I'm not going to call for this guy to get fired. I'm not going to demand that everybody cancels Saturday Night Live. It's just, that felt wrong. And so we didn't do it. And that gave Saturday Night Live the space to actually apologize the way they wanted to and have me on. And I talk about this in I have a whole chapter about the right sense of shame. And this is the only time I bring up the Saturday Night Live thing in the book. The book kind of came about because of the fame that I got from Saturday Night Live, but the book isn't really about that. It just so happens that I was directly involved in sort of an outrage culture moment. And so I decided to write a whole book about the solutions to outrage culture. But that moment takes up like 3 pages in the book. Not even. But what I point out is that there's a right way to show shame in our culture, and there's a wrong way. And more, our culture is going the wrong way, where we have like these two extreme options. On the one hand, people will bow down to the outrage mob. I'm so sorry. I can't believe I did that. And I bring up some examples in the book on that. One, because this one just drove me nuts, was Mario Lopez, when he makes the all too understandable comment that 3-year-olds should not choose their gender. I mean, oh my God, can't even believe he said that.
What a radical.
He got destroyed for it, right? And then, but what does he do? He doesn't say, "Hey, hold on, like, what's wrong with that?" You know, come on, guys. Like, you know, he doesn't do that. He says, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me." Right? That's the wrong sense of shame. And there's, on the other extreme, there's another wrong sense of shame, which is showing no shame at all. And there's plenty of examples like that, mostly in the political world, but in other places as well, and other public figures. And then I diagnosed, like, why is that? Like, why is there this incentive for one or the other? And it's an all of us problem. It's not just our terrible politicians or our silly celebrities. It's an all of us problem. We all engage in this shaming in the wrong way. We either we overreact to such an extent that we force people to bow down when they shouldn't, or we overreact to such an extent that public figures realize there's no incentive to apologize because there's no forgiving, there's no redemption, there's no forgetting. Like, and so we have to get back to this sort of middle ground, and people, and there's good examples that I bring up in the book of that good middle ground too. And we just have to do more of that, be more nuanced in our thinking. Nuance is like a huge part of solving this problem.
Yeah. So you go back on SNL, and there's humor and there's nuance and decency and all of those things, and that kind of propels you. And one of the things that I think is sort of interesting about you is it's like we've sort of got these cartoon characters on the left with the squad, like AOC and Ilhan Omar and Tlaib and a couple others. And then there's sort of you on the other side of that. And when you take you and the eye patch, there's sort of like, you're kind of like Nick Fury. Like, if we're looking at this through a Marvel lens, it's like, as we should, right? I mean, but I mean, we're sort of like, there's like all the politicians now, it's sort of, and Trump and everybody, it's sort of like characters in a movie or in a video game or something like that. But I mention this because it's like, it seems like there's this young crew from the lefties, and then there's sort of you on the other side of that. Are there some other guys that you, guys, girls, whatever, that you think are in your crew that are sort of the younger, more get it, more willing to open up, talk about these things? I mean, you know, I've done events with you where, like, you know, you can be out there with the students and it's not this stuffy thing, but it seems like it's kind of just you holding that for the sort of new, more maybe open-minded conservative, something like that.
Yeah, that's a good question. I do get asked that a lot, and it's a difficult question because, like, I don't want to try and analyze the minds of my colleagues who maybe don't put themselves out there as much. I think maybe a lot would be willing to, but they don't have the same ability to, or they're not sure how. There's some really great members of Congress who are our age, you know, like Mike Gallagher, Elise Stefanik, and they're out there, but, you know, they have their own style. They're not on social media the way I am. They're not out there the way I am. Everybody does have their own style. I'm excited about sort of a new squad coming out of Texas. We've got a lot of great new candidates running, very diverse set, very young. I'm really excited about it. You know, I've got Wesley Hunt here next to me, an African-American Army helicopter pilot. Got Tony Gonzalez running for Will Hurd's seat. Old Master Chief, not old, sorry, but prior Master Chief. You know, Beth Van Dyne, she's a prior mayor, again, young, like, got a lot of, like, very intelligent, got a lot of spunk. Genevieve Collins, another great one, again, young woman, a millennial like me, you know, very successful, got a great shot at that seat. There's a lot of really good candidates, and I think the Republican Party does have a chance to, like, really remake itself in a really big way that connects with a lot of different people. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah. Is the biggest challenge there just getting over sort of the old stereotypes? I mean, just the old stereotypes. Conservatives care about money and care about war, and, you know, Democrats like poor people and peace, and like these basic sort of very factory setting things when in reality, I mean, we spoke at the Turning Point Student Action Summit, and Trump spoke that morning, and it was right after the impeachment hearing, and you wanted to get up in the middle of his speech. You were trying to show him your vote, that you voted against it. Yeah. And it was like, it was a totally impromptu moment. Trump looks at you in the crowd. He's like, Dan, come on up here. The Secret Service guys were all looking like, oh, God, now we have to get this guy from the crowd, even though he's a congressman, get him on stage. But my broader point is that it was like fun and real, which is so the reverse of what politics is presented to us as.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's totally changed in the last few years, and I think it's exciting. Now we have to be responsible with how we manage this new train that's just like lurching forward, right? Because it is this sort of interesting combination of like showmanship with some deep thinking and some real actual statesmanship. It is up to us as leaders to make sure that we maintain those bonds and that balance in a very coherent way.
If you're looking for more honest and thoughtful conversations about politics instead of nonstop yelling, check out our politics playlist. And if you want to watch full interviews on a variety of topics, watch our full episode playlist all right over here. And to get notified of all future videos, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.